Hello, welcome to TNT. It's Tuesday, and wouldn't it be great to enjoy Thailand, to enjoy the great weather, and maybe one day to invest in a block of land? The great dream of people around the world to just own their little patch of dirt. And it's become quite a hot topic. Here in Thailand, they're now proposing that people will be able to buy up to one rai of land, but there are many, many strings attached. And the whole foreign ownership of land in Thailand is now going to become a hot political potato. Suffice to say, I think the proposal is probably dead in the water, and we'll check out why in today's TNT. And we'll get to the issue of the foreign ownership of land and how that's tracking through the political system a little bit later on in the program. But just a few quick housekeeping matters. Firstly, this one. This is a report from Sunday, the Phuket Immigration Daily Report. Yes, it's the Phuket Immigration Report. For some reason, Suvarnabhumi don't seem to do a similar sort of graph like this. But I'm thinking that you could broadly map these statistics across the rest of Thailand as well. So this one, it tracks the traffic coming through the immigration department, so basically that's foreign travellers, from May up to October the 30th, when there were 7,701 people coming through the airport. And we can see on the right side there, they're from principally India, and then Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, and then the UK. Down the bottom, and this is a really important number to figure as well, you've got 17,162 Thais. Now these are Thais that are basically going out of the country, travelling and then coming back in. Now, they are coming through immigration. Of course, they're just being stamped back in as citizens. So these are interesting numbers to look at as we try and figure out the recovery of tourism into Thailand. And I've got a story a little bit later on in the program about one particular country that's starting up a lot of flights. You might be interested in that one too. So I'm not sure if we can glean much from that, except there was a bit of a plateau through the sort of summer months there, but now obviously there is an increase, and we can see the graph growing there. So you can see that during the winter months those numbers plateaued to a certain level, but they're certainly increasing. 7,701 people coming through the immigration turnstiles at the Phuket airport on October the 30th. We'll crunch the numbers on that a little bit later on in the program to see what that actually means, but I just thought that would be of interest to you. To this next story, and this was a post by a man called Han Thomas, and he was talking about the lovely little canal that's been opened up in Chiang Mai, a sort of a new market walking street, well, walking along the river type situation. But he did point out, and I put an arrow there to show you, but there's nothing, well, very little, stopping people teetering over the side into the actual canal. Now, as nice as the canal and the makeover looks, I'm not sure if I'd really want to fall into one of those canals, but thank you very much to Han Thomas for pointing out that they're probably going to have to put up some railing or something stopping people actually going over the side. I could see in the evening somebody just going for a nice little bike ride, whoops, into the canal. Also, Bangkok, Thailand ranks first in the best leisure city in the Asia Pacific. This is by Business Traveller. So this is good. Bangkok always seems to do well in these surveys, and as you can see down the bottom, the Public Relations Department of the Thai government are proudly posting the results from the Business Traveller magazine survey. And here we go. The readers of Business Traveller Asia Pacific, noting that the writers of this particular article can't quite figure out whether they're going to use the American spelling of traveller or the Oxford English spelling of traveller. Down the third paragraph there, this year Bangkok won top ranking in the category of Best Leisure City in the Asia Pacific, the 6th year in a row. So the survey says that business travellers love coming to Bangkok. I wonder why. In addition, down the bottom there, Thailand received other awards. Thai Airways was ranked third in the best airline of Asia Pacific, and the Mandarin Hotel in Bangkok rated as the first in the best business hotel in the Asia Pacific survey. If you haven't been to the Mandarin Hotel in Bangkok, you just have to go there. Go for the high tea. It's an experience. Here we go. Here are the actual results. The best Asia Pacific airline, Singapore Airlines, Cathay Pacific. Cathay Pacific, over the last year, I think they've had about 3 planes flying. There hasn't been much in the way of any travel by Cathay Pacific over the past year. And then Thai Airways third. Thai Airways, with still half their fleet gathering dust on the ground, I'm not sure how they could be rated as one of the best airlines over the past 12 months, but there you are. And the best airports in the Asia Pacific, Changi Airport, no surprise there, it's a great airport for a layover. I've just done some 5 hours plus 7 hours hanging around at Changi Airport. Hong Kong International Airport, which would be mostly invaded by cleaners, I would say, over the past year, and Incheon Airport in Seoul. That's a good airport as well. And here we are, the best business hotel in Bangkok, Mandarin Hotel, Shangri-La. I haven't had the opportunity to go there. Would be nice to be invited. And the JW Marriott in Bangkok, all great hotels. What do you think about those surveys? Do you think they just sort of, some PR person sits down and gives these places a ring and says, throw us a few thousand baht and we'll include you in the list? I'm never quite sure. This is TNT. We would like to thank our sponsor, 5 Star Marine. If you'd like to pop down to the island of Phuket sometime, and I can assure you we've got a lovely day ahead today, and it looks like excellent weather for the next 2 or 3 days anyway, and you can pop out to any of the 30 or so islands on a private boat tour. So thanks to 5 Star Marine. To our main story today, and it's sort of the beginning of the end of the proposal to allow foreign ownership of land in Thailand. And here we go. This is the story, New Flack for Foreign Land Ownership Bill. This story by the Bangkok Post. And the government's listening to every concern, they say, about the proposal to allow foreigners to hold land ownership of up to 1 rai for residential purposes. This from the Deputy Prime Minister Wisanu Kriyanam, who's a bit of a numbers man for the Palang Pracharat government here in Thailand, and also quite well respected among the business community. So the government are saying, we're going to let you have up to 1 rai of land. You're going to have to invest 40 million baht for at least 3 years to get the right to buy that land, and you'll have to also get a long-term resident visa, and you'd have to be one of the 4 different categories of people, and the categories themselves are quite onerous, apart from the application fee of 50,000 baht just to be able to apply for a long-term resident visa. But the second paragraph, he was responding to criticism triggered by the Cabinet's recent approval by the Interior Ministry to alter the laws governing land ownership by foreigners. Well, the law basically says that foreigners can't own land. You can buy a condo as long as the development, the condominium development, doesn't have any more than 49% of its units allocated to foreigners. You can take out a 30-year lease on land. You could also register a company, and the company could own the land, but the Thai company can't have any more than 49% of foreign ownership. So there you go. It's basically impossible at the moment to own land in any way that you could actually call ownership in Thailand. So this is a major change by saying, well, foreigners could own land. They could have free title with all these conditions. Under the proposal, 4 specific groups of foreigners can apply to buy up to 1 rai of land. Those 4 groups are the 4 different groups that can have a long-term resident visa. However, critics slammed the move, saying it would discriminate against locals, and some also accused the government of selling off the country to foreigners. In Australia, we used to say we're selling the farm to overseas people. Mr. Wisanu said foreign ownership of property has always been a controversial issue, and the government is open to recommendations such as more restrictions than the ones they've already imposed. So here we go. He says, whenever the issue comes up, it stirs debate. When it was raised during the Chatterjee administration, it failed. The regulation was successfully pushed during the Thaksin administration, but there were few buyers. So I wonder how many buyers there would be under the current provisions of this new proposal. It will be interesting to see where those people will come from and the reaction from business groups here in Thailand. He says in the third paragraph, so we want to reduce the number of conditions to attract investors. However, it's yet to take effect and still being examined by the Council of State. In other words, if enough voters don't like it, they'll scrap the proposal. That's pretty much what he means there. And there is an election coming up, and so we'll see quite a lot of politicisation of some of these proposals. Things like the cannabis bill, this foreign ownership of land, they're going to become hot political potatoes. And our third story from the Bangkok Post, we do have some other publication stories in the program as well. Apec meet fails to wow public, most of the public unaware of the summit's purpose, noting that the Apec meeting, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, is holding its meeting sort of from the 16th to the 19th. All the big wigs will be here on the 18th and 19th in Bangkok. And the story saying there in the second paragraph, most respondents showed little awareness of the forum and couldn't see how it relates to their day-to-day life. Many also questioned whether it was worth hosting here in Thailand. That's a fair question. I mean, what is going to be the value to the average Thai in having this here? Yes, we'll probably sell a few hotel rooms in some of the nicest hotels. There might be some restaurants. After they've had their official dinner, they may want to go out and have some street food. But really, it's only over a couple of days, and they're asking most of Bangkok to go and have a public holiday for a few days because they want to try and empty the city out to make the cities look a little bit cleaner. So a fair question. And down the bottom there, no respondents said they were worried about the possibility of the meeting being disrupted by protests, as they were sure security has been arranged. Yes, you can be sure that they have arranged security because there are some very big names coming to this meeting, and the Thais, for no other reason but saving face, want to make sure that these politicians have a good time and a nice peaceful visit while they're here. And the optic for the Thai government of any disruptions or protests is something they probably will have a very low tolerance for. So that's the Apec meeting. Okay, to another story. It's also the Bangkok Post. Exports of meth pill precursor sodium cyanide to be iced. And the story says that the Cabinet will be asked to suspend exports of sodium cyanide for several months after large quantities of the precursor headed to Myanmar. And Thailand's recently imported 1,150 tonnes of sodium cyanide, but exported as much as 800 tonnes of the substance to Myanmar. So that's about 75% of what they imported, they've exported to Myanmar. If the exported amounts was abused, it could feed the production of 16 billion methamphetamine pills. The rest of the sodium cyanide was used inside Thailand for metal coating. Or perhaps Thailand is so concerned about the metal coating industry in Myanmar, they thought they should export it to Myanmar, where of course Myanmar could have imported it from the people that manufacture the stuff in the first place. And down the bottom there would not be any negative impact on industry in Myanmar because it could import sodium cyanide directly from China. So if Thailand's trying to stop the meth labs getting hold of the precursors, they're trying to stem the tide of drugs coming out of the Golden Triangle, then this will amount to absolutely nothing at all. To our next story, and this story in the wake of the Itaewon disaster in Seoul over the weekend. More than 80 killed in India as a bridge packed with holiday sightseers collapses. It happened in the Indian state of Gujarat on Sunday. There were at least 81 people killed, and Reuters TV footage showed dozens of people clinging onto cables and twisted remains of the bridge over the Machu River in the town of Morbi as emergency teams struggled to rescue them. So we can see there the collapsed bridge, and looks like a whole lot of those suspension cables have broken. So two completely disconnected events, but showing the problems when a whole lot of people get together in one place a lot of care needs to be taken, and perhaps that hasn't been the top priority for some of these Asian countries. Some analysis from the Straits Times. Questions raised about the lax crowd control as South Koreans mourn crowd crush tragedy. Third paragraph there. Hundreds of revellers got stuck in an entangled pile last Saturday night when crowds moving in opposite directions converged in a narrow downhill alley next to the iconic Hamilton Hotel, causing some to fall and trigger a domino effect. And most of them died of asphyxia or cardiac arrest. And the death toll, which includes 26 foreigners from Iran, China and Russia, and I think we found out there was at least one Australian death as well, is expected to rise as 30 people are seriously injured. Another 122 people sustained minor injuries. The South Korean President Yoon ordering the government to come up with a crowd management system, and just noting that the Bangkok governor yesterday ordering the officials in Khao San Road to put some sort of crowd management in place for the expected crowds last night for Halloween, which reminds me, happy Halloween for those people who celebrate Halloween. Probably people watching this, it may still be late at night in the United States, where I know it's popular. As a young Australian, we really didn't celebrate Halloween, but for those people that do, hope you had a good time. And to this story, Russian tourists touched down in Phuket on the first direct flight. So there are, as we'll see, 2 or 3 airlines now ferrying people from Russia into places like Thailand. Are they travellers? Are they tourists? Perhaps a few refugees as well. Direct flights from Russia to Phuket resumed on Sunday, boosting tourist arrivals on the southern holiday island. Ikar Airlines. Okay, so Ikar Airlines are part of a group called PGAS. PGAS was very big for about 5, 6, 7 years in both Pattaya, in Bangkok, and particularly in Phuket, where they built like an ecosystem of airport pickups, hotels, restaurants, and they chartered these planes to bring the tourists here. So they had a complete tourism ecosystem for Russian travellers. And the Russian tourists were given a special welcome. Russian carrier Aeroflot also resumed its direct 9-hour flight from Moscow to Phuket. Phuket Airport expects to see about 30,000 arrivals per day in November, which sort of brings us full circle to where we started on the program, and we'll go back to this graph. So the biggest number of tourists we've had arriving in one day for the past 2.5 years is 7,701. And if you look at the top 5 arrivals, we've got India, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia and the UK. No sign of Russia there at the moment. So if they're expecting to go from 7,701 up to 30,000 arrivals, that's a pretty big jump, especially if they're saying they're going to get 30,000 per day. Now, they might be talking, of course, about the whole Phuket airport, the international airport, and the domestic terminal as well. So even if we have 7,701 tourists arriving every single day through the international immigration turnstiles, which would include 10 to 15% of Thais returning from trips as well, then we'd still only be at around about 25% of the numbers of foreign tourists entering Phuket before COVID-19 pandemic. So we'll certainly watch those numbers with interest. And as I said, I think you could probably map those numbers coming through Phuket Airport across the rest of Thailand as an indication at least of the trends. I'll try and get some better numbers out of Suvarnabhumi over the next few days to bring you up to date. And with that, I thank you very much for watching. If you get an opportunity to click the subscribe button down below, I would be eternally grateful. Thanks for watching today, and I think we'll do it all again tomorrow.